unusually named Ruyton 11 Towns was one of 11 townships which made up the ancient borough of Ruyton, recorded in the Domesday Book. Beside the tower of St. John the Baptist's Church, the remaining lonely fragments of a castle, demolished in 1212, bear witness to the violence of the border raids, which gave the name of the Welsh Marches to this historic part of Shropshire. St. John's Church is itself very ancient, having been built and consecrated between 1120 and 1148. The church is something of a time capsule, perched high above the village and hewn out of local red sandstone. Norman windows and doorway blend with arches and pillars of the 13th and 14th centuries, while the tower is 15th century, as are many of the roof timbers. Although now only a village, Ruyton was once a prosperous small town, built on the banks of the River Perry, the one-time boundary between England and Wales. The river is spanned by Platt Bridge, constructed under the supervision of County Surveyor Thomas Telford in 1790. Now a private house, this was the toll house for the bridge. The toll for crossing was 1 old penny. The unusual war memorial between Platt Bridge and St. John the Baptist's Church is hacked out of the solid sandstone cliff, and its 6-foot-high cross is enclosed by a natural overhanging ledge. There has been a dairy at Ruyton 11 Towns ever since the Great War, when a local farmers' cooperative was established at Hall Farm by Mr. W. H. Gittins, producing Cheshire cheese. By the end of hostilities in 1918, larger premises were required, and the operation was moved to its present site. A huge milk field, comprising nearly 600 farms in Shropshire, Cheshire and North Wales, supplies up to 730,000 litres of milk daily to the Creamery. Ruyton's principal activity is cheese making. The Creamery produces approximately 20% of Express Foods cheddar cheese, nearly all of its red Leicester, and is the only factory in the Express Group producing double Gloucester. The single raw material, milk, gives rise to a number of end products. Bulk cheese in 18-kilogram blocks is matured in store and then sent to Express Foods' cutting and wrapping facility at Oswestry. Liquid whey is extracted as the cheese curds are formed and can be separated and turned into whey cream, evaporated into an edible concentrate for use in the yellow fat and ice cream industries, or spray dried into powder for a variety of uses. The manufacture of such a large quantity of cheese produces huge volumes of whey. In 1988, the Creamery's drying capacity was increased by 20%, with the installation of a new spray dryer chamber, enabling the processing of an average of 720,000 litres of whey from Ruyton and other creameries into powder each day. At peak production, Ruyton is capable of producing 75 tons of cheddar cheese, 37.5 tons of whey powder, and over 4,500 litres of whey cream every day. The cheese store has a maturing capacity of 3,500 tons of cheese, and the whey powder store can accommodate up to 600 tons. A recent development at the factory has been the installation of a facility for producing high-quality cheeses with various ingredients, herbs, wine, nuts, or other cheeses, in a traditional truckle format, and this is proving a very popular consumer product. On arrival at the factory milk reception, the milk is pumped from bulk tankers into giant silos with a total storage capacity of 1 million litres, where it is held until pasteurization. A special bacteria is needed to start the cheese-making process. All Ruyton's starter culture is produced on site, using 7 stainless steel incubation vessels, which are housed in the most up-to-date sterile environment. Using special media, the bacteria are allowed to grow to their optimum level of development prior to being inoculated into each vat of cheese produced. The cheese-making equipment consists of 10 18,000-litre totally enclosed OST vats and an alphametic belt system capable of converting 730,000 litres of milk a day into 75 tonnes of cheese. The cheese-making machinery is all computer-controlled, but the essential judgments in the process are still made by skilled cheesemakers. The cheese milk is pasteurized to 73 degrees centigrade and held for 15 seconds prior to being cooled to 32 degrees centigrade, at which point the starter culture is added. When the vat is full of milk, the rennet is added and the milk allowed to set and form curd. The resulting mixture, clot as it is called, is cut, releasing the curd from the whey. Then the curds and whey are cooked prior to being pitched onto the alpha-matic. 4 conveyors are employed in the alpha-matic machine, mounted horizontally in 3 tiers. Most of the whey is removed on a special draining screen. The curds are stirred and further draining takes place on the first conveyor. The second conveyor is where matting and fusing begins to occur, and this cheddaring process is continued along the third belt, at the end of which there is a special milling apparatus which cuts the curd into chip-like pieces. The curd chips fall onto the fourth belt, where the cheese is salted and allowed to mellow. The cheese curd is then blown into the pressing room, where a given quantity of cheese is weighed into the specially designed molds, which are supplied with a lid and transported to the palletizing system by a number of conveyors. The molds are put into presses, where the cheese is pressed for a minimum of 4 hours. Once removed from the molds, the 18-kilogram blocks of cheese are passed through a metal detector into the wrapping room, where they are packed into barrier bags, vacuum sealed, weighed, and prepared for maturing. Robotic transporters convey the cheese to the maturing store, guided by sunken wires in a special covered way. Cheese matures for up to 5 months in a controlled environment before being transferred to the company's cutting and pre-packing plant at Oswestry. Ruyton's specialty cheeses are traditional truffles, which are blends of nuts, herbs, wine, and other cheeses. Cheese is chopped in a bowl, the special ingredients added, filled into molds, and stacked in rows in a hydraulic gang press. A black wax skin can be added, and the famous gold Tuxford and Tebbit label applied. The cheese is supplied either as a complete truckle or sliced for sale as portion wedges. Whey produced from the cheese-making process at Ruyton and from another of the company's creameries at Malpass is separated to remove any residual fat content. This is then churned into whey butter. In a series of computer-controlled stages, the remaining whey is pasteurized to kill the bacteria introduced in the cheese-making process, and then evaporated to concentrate the whey. It is crystallized in large tanks and then passed to the atomizer prior to drying. The new Nairo spray dryer chamber was installed in 1988 at a cost of £500,000 and can dry 2,800 litres of concentrated whey per hour, producing 2 tons of powder. The powder is supplied in bulk to famous name manufacturers throughout the UK and abroad for use in their product recipes, and is also supplied in smaller quantities as an ingredient in animal feeds. In recognition of the importance of environmental issues, the effluent handling facilities at the creamery have also recently been upgraded to cope with the increased production, and all fresh water for the factory is supplied from its own borehole. The creamery operates advanced production control systems and maintains the highest quality assurance programs for both chemical and microbiological analysis of the processes. This culminated in 1989 in the factory satisfying the accreditation requirements of BS 5750, the standard for quality manufacturing systems, one of the first food companies in the United Kingdom to achieve this distinction. The creamery at Ruyton 11 Towns has combined the production of traditional dairy products with the most modern manufacturing systems for 3/4 of a century, adding its own fascinating chapter to Ruyton's distinguished past.